Welcome to the third in the series of Mexican modern architecture. This series is designed to bring 50 years of Mexican modern architecture to SCI-Arc through the works of 9 leading Mexican architects whose careers span from the beginnings of the modern movement in the 1930s up until the present day. The first 4 speakers who were scheduled represented the period of the 30s and the 40s, men though who are still active today. We started the series with Jose Villagran, who was the professor at the university whose teachings began the modern movement and who is the teacher of practically every one of the architects practicing in Mexico today. Following him was supposed to have been Mario Pani, who's one of the outstanding planners and designers of public buildings in Mexico, but unfortunately his illness prevented his coming. He was followed by Enrique del Moral, who was the first disciple of Jose Villagran. And due to some scheduling problems, the next speaker, Augusto Alvarez, has had to be rescheduled for November 19th. In between, we had a presentation of the works of Luis Barragan without his presence, but as a result of some personal interviews we had made with him. And tonight then begins what I like to think of as the second phase of our lecture, and that is the post-World War II phase. Now, the 4 men I had mentioned previously, although they were the pioneers in the modern movement, they are still active today, except for Villagran, who is still teaching. The others still have active practices. But starting tonight with Agustín Hernández, next week with Abram Zabudowski and González de León, followed the following week by Ricardo Legarreta. And these 4 men are representing the post-war period in Mexico. All of these men graduated from the university in the early years following World War II. Their careers reached the maturity during the 60s, and today they are probably doing the best work of their careers. All of the men that I mentioned are well known within Mexico and also outside of Mexico. Agustín Hernández, who is our speaker tonight, was educated at the University of Mexico. He graduated in 1954, and for about 15 years he taught at the university while he was also maintaining a practice. He has been the recipient of many, many honors and awards, much too numerous to mention. But just in passing, his design for the Mexican exhibit at the Osaka exposition in 1970 was selected by the Mexican government to be built. His design for the military academy also won first honors and was selected, and is one of the most exciting projects that I have seen for quite some time. Mr. Hernández is a very exciting man. His works, he has no formula. He does not fit into a pattern. Each project he approaches with a different point of view. He takes from each of the projects its own philosophy, its own meaning, and from it he develops a program and a project and a form. His works is very sculptural, and he is interested in that. He's interested in forms. The one thing, though, that does link him with all of the Mexican architects is that all the Mexican architects are very understanding and have great regard for their cultural heritage. And you will find, when you listen to Mr. Hernández tonight, that much of his work reflects the culture of Mexico, which is a combination of the Hispanic Arabic culture of the Spanish conquistadors and the pre-Hispanic Indian. And you will find this throughout not only his work but all of the architects. And so, one thing I want to mention. Among the many honors that he won, we are very fortunate. He got off a plane this morning. He had just arrived from Cologne, Germany, where he had been the recipient of one of the awards of an international competition for a building to be built in Cologne, Germany. And the man had practically no sleep, came right from off the plane and to here. And we're very, very glad that he thinks that much of us, that he would do that. So I introduce Agustín Hernández.
But we have a really strong past. We have, it's all right. We have a very strong past. Mexico has acervo, I don't know the word, acervo, heritage, very big. And we can't throw it away. We had to put the past of pre-Hispanic and colonial out to situate us and to project functionally the experience of the past through the future. The join of two different cultures. One culture with the magic of the sky, they make the spaces, the cosmic spaces. After the conquest, the Spanish put that religion in a small chamber, black and dark. Those are the position of our idiosyncrasia. Is all right, that word? I'm sorry about my English, but I have to have help. And that duality that we have we have to express it, and we have to make a fusion of the two traces, the developments of the space, the big spaces, our open spaces, and the interior spaces. I believe architecture is a whole. Architecture is outside and architecture is in inside. And I believe architecture has to be a sculpture, living sculpture, a functional sculpture. After this problem, I think we have three problems more. One is the relation of the architect in society. I call the trinity enajenante, out of reality. The trinity, the architect, the user, and the constructor. Nobody knows what they are doing. In the history, the social history of the architecture, can we pass the first slide? There was a binomium of society and design. I have everything here. Huh? What do you want? Oh, I can change it here? Perfect. This is the relation social of design architectonic, when architecture borns with the history. In one part we see this design, in the other society. Since the Paleolithic, the magician and the artist, they work together, making the cave bigger and making the drawers in the cave, and the painter, the artist, knows the religion perfectly, and they work together and they identify together, they work. After in Egypt and Mesopotamia, two theocratic states, the artist and the architect know perfect the religion, and he works very joined together in the society. In Greece and Rome, and the city-states, the creativity was for the polis, for the city. It was a civic and politic creativity, very close together with the society. After that, in the Middle Age, the client, was the church, but the artist, the architect, he belongs to the same religion. He knows what he was doing and for what. So the same thing passed in Renaissance, when the artists work for the nobility, and for the mecenas, they work joint, perfect together. So in the modern bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie asks for the architect and the special work, and they work very close together. Until in this time, there's a rupture, a break, because now there is a disconnection between architect and users and construction. Thus comes that we make from the user an enajenado, out of reality. We are divorced. There's a big divorce between architect and people. In the history of architecture, the relations of design and society, it was harmonious and directly, until in the actuality they were more abstracted. The architect believes that he's more free because he doesn't know the user, no? That's false. Here I have two drawings of the liberty, the two kinds of liberties. There's first kind is the liberty creative, concrete. The other one is the idealist. The first one is the the liberty relation with the forms of necessity, that the architect has to be a social being, very good condition in his historic moment. And we can see the architect between the user and the constructor. And in this liberty, we have a lot of conditions like social historics, economics, cultural techniques. And we have to have a great grade of knowledge, a dominion of technique, to know the instruments of expression, to have autocritic and revaluation, and to have the unity of project and practice. And this gives a product which is social, useful in architecture. It gives a product of a humanized space and the realization of the user. And the architect worked for him and for the others. In the idealist liberty, is all right, liberty or freedom? Freedom. The architect believes that he's more free because he doesn't care about the user and he doesn't care about the constructor. But he only have a program quantitative, and the financier they give us only a program, how many rooms, that's all, square meters, and we don't know for whom we are projecting, having a project. Huh? This only gave a merchandise. This merchandise is the mercantilism who gives an architecture superfluous is all right, and space deshumanized and avasallamiento under of the user. Okay. Yeah. I think there are two kinds of praxis. One, can we have a focus, more focus, please? One is the reiterative. Reiterative is a copy, no, of others. The reiterative architecture, it has a law, always has a first plan or a concept, like it's a formalism or academism or formalism. Always the praxis reiterative is a process previsible. Is it all right, previsible? Previsible. Huh? Come on. Predict. Always you know what is going to in the project, what's going to happen. The product is a repeated product, and who extended only what's created before. No, the praxis, creative praxis, is not a straight line. It's a curve. It's like this. When it works, always the objective and subjective, the intern and the extern, the fantasy and reality, and the intuition or the azar is what we call azar. When you are lucky to find something like the chance. No. Is okay. When you find something, you have an idea, discover, no? It gives you another curve, and then you have a new product and a new law, because when you're trying to make a creative architecture, you don't know what's going to happen. There's not a law. There's no formalism. It's a surprise always. You suppose you're making a space of 20 feet diameter, circular, and 40 meters high. No, you don't know that space. You have to make the space to feel what it is to be inside of that, no? And there's no law until you finish the work. Well, sometimes it happens to me that I make some creative architecture, and I couldn't find the law. It passed maybe 1 year until I find out the law of that architecture, because sometimes architecture or the creative art works the subconscious, that the subconsciente, the subconscious, and you can make it. It's very difficult to rationalize the subconscious. It has to pass time to find out the law. After that, you can repeat yourself, or somebody can use that law and make a greater product. I'm going to show you one house, how I try always to find out, to understand client and to understand society. In this case, it was a man, very particular, because we always have clients very particulars. He asked me for a project. I make a project with a modulation of triangles. And he asked me why I made that house, no? I said because his life, it was very triangular, because he has a wife and a lover, and after that, he divorced and get married with his lover, and he has her wife as a lover. And he repeat about 4 times the same thing. So he was very happy when I show him that triangle, it was the most perfect way of living. Well, as you know, triangles make hexagons. Here is a crystal formation, how a crystal of the snow makes hexagons. This is a comparison of a room with the same surface, and how the hexagon are more wide, more it looks more amplitude because it's more wide and has more length, más profound, more no? How the hexagon has 3 lines, 3 directions to move in agrupations. So it's more organic, and for some problems, it's very useful. Here is the circles, how make hexagons when they join together, like the panel of the bees. Bees, abejas. They were circulars millions of years ago, and by the compressions, they make hexagons. Hexagon is one of the forms, triangular hexagon. It doesn't leave empty spaces like circle. This house is all relation with models, hexagon models, with a central piscina, swimming pool, no? Swimming pool. Okay. Can you change from that side? Well, I can take it. This is the plan of the house, all the modulation. This is bedrooms. This is the social section. It has a dome here. And this is the bedrooms of the children, a master bedroom, a kitchen, dining room, and social room. Okay. I can work with 2 hands, but it's too it's all done with structure iron, structure wood and stone. No. Okay. it has 3 levels of roofs to see the outside of the garden of a park. The garage. This is the swimming pool. This is another level of a communication for the bedrooms. This another window, another kind of level, and the dome. The next house is very particular, this house. It's a man who asked for a competition for a house. He asked for 4 architects to a project. And he invited me first, we have a talk. And this man said, you want a drink? And he sit down this way, with a drink like this, And I was very surprised looking at him walking. After 2 drinks, he walks that way. And I present him a project. I was very afraid because a circular project, the law of that house is everything is circular. And after that, I make him a psychotherapia, labor of psychotherapeutic labor. ¿Cómo se dice labor? A workup to convince him that he was, I say to him, well, look, you are not symmetric, man. You have the spine like this. Oh, really? I am? Yes, of course. Look how you sit. And you look your Cuba Libre, you have it like this. And I convinced him that the space curve is the best space for a kind of man like him. He loves pornography. And he said, you are a very sensual man. And a wall like this is nothing. Because suppose you meet a woman and say, hello. You don't like it. Say the woman, hello. That's a curve. What happened here?
You lost your microphone.
Hello? I told you that.
No.
I'm very clumsy.
No. Very, very.
Clumsy is the particular of a genius. All right. And I tell him, I say to him, well, now look, a plain wall, a straight wall is perfect, infinite. The curve, you can make a space with one wall this way. It's an abrazo? How come? Praise, come on. And in Mexico, we say, camarada, compañero. It's very sensual curve. And I convinced him, and then I show him the project. And it has a more profound philosophy, this house. Have you read Wilhelm Reich? No? You have read? He works with Freud, and he says that he wrote 2 books. One is The Orgasm. But he writes from the organ. It was a power, and the wave came in evolution. Well, let me show it. And I make a fetal house. And that Wilhelm Reich says that man is not symmetric. We are in evolution, even in a gestation. How we call gestation? We pass through millions and millions of years, no? Like little worms. And the fetus. So we have to, we forget we are that way, and we walk that way, even the pelvis is flexible. The pelvis is pelvis? Everything. And all our functionality are contraction, explosion, are like this, our brains, our heart, our lungs, our intestinos are like this. You only the curve have the form like the serpent of contraction and explosion, expansion and contraction, like the primitive me. Here's a beautiful phrase. Can you focus? Of Levi Broth, who says, en every spirit from intelectualizado que esté, a ver, ayúdame, en cualquier espíritu por intelectuado que sea, existe un fondo que no puede desarraigarse de su mentalidad primitiva. More focus, no? So we have even a panorama. The eye, the retina looks everything in curve. We have a very kinetic, the eye is more kinetic every day with the televisions, the change of the television, the planes, cars, and we can see here the interest in form that has a baby in the circle more than in a square or a triangle. The curve, the wall curve always makes a space because it has a movement of involving. The wall straight line is only a fondo. ¿Cómo se dice fondo? Escape or ¿cómo se dice fondo? Background, that's right, background. And this place is, all the house is traced in circles joined together. And these are forms of small boys of 2 years, 8 years, making houses, circular houses. And they are the historic development of the circular house in the world. This is a house. This is the entrance, the garage. It has a big, the entrance here to receive you, and there's a stair. It has a garden, interior garden. This is the living room. Well, the construction goes here and here and here, no? Here's the bedroom. You climb the stairs here. This is the reception room. This is the dining room. This is the kitchen. Oh, no, sorry. That's the entrance of the garage. There's another view. That's the entrance. Pardon me? ¿Dijo qué? ¿Qué? Después no entiendo el español. ¿Eh?
Not so fast, not so fast.
Ah, más despacio, no despacio. Everything circular is outside the swimming pool. It's the dining room here. Everything is precast. This interior, it has a level. It has interior garden and domes, circular domes. There's a view from the entrance. This is the living room. Everything, as you see, is circular. There's a chimney of the kitchen, no? Breakfast. This the bedroom, the part of the bedroom. This is the closet. Everything actually is curved, and the man, I tell him he's so curved that I want to make, how you call it in the roads when it's like this, peraltada we call it. But he walks like this, yeah. Oh, well, this is another house. This house the owner was a kind of convent, but he bought me a land like this, so I have to make a convent, compressed convent. And it has a beautiful view of a little town, Santa Fe, 16th century. The first place I want to make a house, having the view like that's inclined, no? Inclined. But it needs, that inclination needs one force. It's not only static, it's, formal, to be, to see with stability, no? Stability. And all the house is traced in section with triangles, 1 or 2 in high. And it has, in this trace, has arcs and elliptic windows, because the window elliptic is really the window more functional for the eye. We don't see in the square, no. Our visual camp is ellipse, the polychromatic visual camp. And it has all in the triangles, has arcs, who has two dualities. If you see an arc like this, it's a cover, it's covering you, no? It's a passive way to have a look of an arc. If you look the arc this way, it's a active, it's a shoot for a space, no? These are forms of a convent when it has, I don't know what you call arcos reglados. Arcs go from direct, like this, but I will show you later then. And the profile of a man and the profile of the house reminds me something that I should tell you. Now, this is the section of the house. All traced in triangles, no? This is the street, one level. This is the entrance. You go down half level to the reception room, and half level to the bedrooms. I believe that all architecture has to be modulated and has to be geometric. I think architecture has to be geometry, pure geometry and mathematics. It is another section of the house where the circulation is all right. It's a big space of a dining room here. It's like a chimney of a convent, and the bedrooms. You have to see the. No, what happened? I don't know why, but in this house, a lot of psychoanalysts came to see the house. There are two kinds of psychoanalysts in Mexico, the Freudians and the Freudians. You know about Fromm, no? Fromm and Freud, no? The Freudians are more romantic and Freudians are more scientific, no? The Freudian says that this house is very erotic, that I see sex in every place, no? What happened with this sex? And the Freudians, Romanians, say more poetic things. I have experience with little boys. When you make something different, the little boys, they are the most interested people because they are not have vicious or forms. They get to this house like to be in Disneylandia. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Ya?
Where's the location of this house?
Pardon me? Location in Mexico? Mexico City, going through Toluca, you know. Santa Fe is the place.
What about the previous house, the round house? Where is that?
It's Bosques de las Lomas. What? Which one? Oh, this house has 9 years. This one. A round house has 4 years, I think so. Yes, 4 years. I think a house has to be, look, the traditional house in Egypt, in Greece, was with a patio. Why was that patio? That patio is not only for light. That patio is for walking. The house has to invite you to move in the house. Because if you make houses, sandwich houses, I call sandwiches like this, you are very static. You came to your house and you go to the bedroom. You stay there in a little space. The house has to invite you very dynamic. It has to have forms, and it has to be an invitation to walk, to go around, to visit, to have an experience each day, to have better digestion. So you can see the truncal fallow, no, the erotic things. A truncal senus, truncate senus. This is the entrance to the from womb. No, that's the Freudian says. There's the chimney, or they have 5 chimneys. There's the principal entrance. There's the, how do you call vestibulo? Vestibule? It has a dome with onyx marble. This is the other view. All the houses incline. And this is a window like an eye looking at the volcanoes. This is the entrance of the garage. Because I was talking something. An architect, architects were very jealous of the other architects. So one day came an architect to see the house, and he told me, oh, I don't think your house has no integrity because one facade is different than the other. It's to have no integration. And I tell him, well, look, I was very angry, you know. I said, have you seen you in a mirror? You have a profile. He was a nose very director, and you have a very straight profile here, and you have a concave cranius, no, like this. And if you have a long mirror, you can see your difference of. So that's architect's organic architecture. This is the onyx. This is the entrance to climb half level to the bedrooms. These are columns. I call them diaphragmas. They support 2 bóvedas, 2 arcs, no? How do you call this? An arc. And this is natural light. That's, I told you about color. This color is not painted. It's the color of the onyx. I believe in natural colors. This is the level of the entrance. Is the onyx part. The stair goes down. When I was working in this house, the maestro de obras, ¿cómo se dice? The superintendent. Oh, look, architect, I worked 15 years and I sleep pretty well. Since I make this house, I don't sleep, so I don't either. Because I remember this in this showing, I said that this wall, he says that this wall is going to be inclined. And it's not, it's an intersection of a inclined wall and a how do you call it, cylinder. This is the fireplace. This is all the model, no? One or two high is the door. Oh, ya pasó. A ver. The door is, it works. It's a bizarre. Sometimes I make a building this way, and the president in that was Díaz Ordaz, and he was in inauguration, and he asked me, "Oh, look, architect, I don't know in this building if I walk this side or I walk this side," and I told him, "Mr. President, I think you have to incline a little to the left." But he doesn't pay attention to me. He's the president of 68. You don't know about 68? No. This is the dining room. I have to make, this is one of the houses I make, the law I couldn't understand, and I make a conventional dining room, starting, and it looks terrible because the space is very high, no? And it has to pass 1 year to find out that I have to integrate in the architecture the table for the dining room. All the arcs goes from the circle to the straight line. Oh, you can see it here. This is the window we saw first. Here, suppose without the smoke, you can see the volcanoes. One day at the year. This is the structure rotulated for the bedrooms. It's a fachada. It has a beautiful view. You can see the arcs go straight here in the front and go an arc. Oh, let me see the other one. Oh, you can see it here, no? Oh. Well, this is another house. This is another story. It was a woman, and he bought a small land, 17 meters, about 17, and he asked me to have a big garden. And I couldn't know how I could make a big garden, no? And I found out that her name was Doris. And I take the book, Who Was Doris in a mythology. And after that, I have the idea, I'm going to make an underground house with a shell, how you call it, Nautilus form. And I convinced her, like this, now look, Doris, it was the daughter of Poseidon, the king of the sea. You are mother of all the Nereidas, the Sirenas, no? You are of the ocean. You have to live in a shell. She has blue eyes, and they say, Lord, you are from you're born in, like Venus in a shell. I convince her, and I make a house. I think sometimes in Mexico we make terrible things. We make big walls. I think here too, no? Big walls, and we put earth here, and then we make a house. This wall is terrible view, and it has an obstacle of viewing of the street. If you're underground in a hill, you have a free view, and you have a ground, you have a respect ecologic, integration of the land, and you have less sound, outside sound. You can conserve energy, the conservation, how do you call it, conservación? The mantenimiento. Maintenance are less, and well, it has a lot of convenience. All the house is traced with this formula. Mathematics is the expression of the section area that this Nautilus Pompilius 400 million years ago, he was the first architect who grows in that way. It's fantastic. All the house is traced like this, no, that formula, and it's the house who has no spoiled spaces, because you get in the center to an atrium, and through this atrium you go to the living room, to one bedroom, to another bedroom, to master bedroom, toilet, which is here, right, you can see it, and kitchen. Here's a drawing. Here's a beautiful phrase. When we can do architecture like la más humilde, how do you call humilde? Like the most humble realization of nature, then we are making and living adequadamente. ¿No? When we can make, a ver, tradúcelo tú, man.
When we make humble architecture, we're actually doing honor to nature and living adequately.
Okay. This is the plan of the house. This is the stair of service to go to the kitchen from the entrance, which is at the top. This is the stairs. This is the living room, dining room. You can see one room and one room. And you can see the trays, no? Of 15 and 15 degrees and 30 degrees. And the mathematics of the growing of the house. This is a view from, and just the only, this is the only thing you see, no? So, one visitor, I was there, he says, is this house for, ¿cómo se dice enanos? For, is this a house for pigeons? For pigeons? No se dice pigeons, ¿cómo se dice? Midgets, that's right. This is done for the atrium, and I have here a collector rain for a tank, and all I have a collector, drains collectors to have a deposit of water to keep, and you know something, it's very important, that if we make houses like this, we can put down below the temperature of a city about 5 degrees. This is the view from the other side of the hill. Huh? This is all the houses making the color in the concrete to make it like to be a cave, the same color that the air down there. This is the living room. The atrium. Okay, and I don't know. It's finished. It's finished that. Or no?